Hello, guys, and welcome to Culture Talks. It's actually episode 23, and today is a very special one for us because we're joined with the one and only Mr. Michael McAdams from Movie House Cinemas. Anyone that knows anything about us will know we have such a deep-rooted relationship. Most of our experience came from our careers with Movie House. And it's actually quite special to get Michael on here because he doesn't necessarily do a lot of video or interviews, and we don't want this to be an interview. We want this to very much be hello, how are you? And here's some insights into how our business is going. But look, I'm not going to do you justice, Michael. Do you want to give everyone a little bit of an idea as to who you are, what Movie House is, and some insights?
Right. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Michael McAdam. I'm the owner of Movie House Cinemas. I have the title of Managing Director. Movie House has just turned 30 years old, and it's the 20th of September 1990. It's hard to believe it's like 30 years ago. And we started off with the Movie House in Glengormley, which at that stage was the first 5-screen to open in the country. And people asked me why I wanted to open a 5-screen when everybody else had 4. And I said, because there's one more. It gives me one more choice of films that nobody else has. It's as simple as that. And then we discovered we weren't using a little part of the foyer. So having been over in London promoting the opening of Movie House, I'd gone to the Odeon Leicester Square, and they had the mezzanine screens where I watched Pretty Woman. In fact, I remember it well that summer's day, and counted like 36 seats. And I thought, well, they have 36 seats in a cinema in London. I can do the same in Glengormley. And our little foyer then became 42 seats or thereabouts. And so anyway, that was Movie House in Glengormley. That moved on to Yorkgate, which is now called Cityside. It's quite confusing because I have to write Movie House, Yorkgate, Cityside, and it gets very, very confusing. From there, we opened a little cinema in the country town of Mahara, and that was great. And a few years later, I negotiated to buy what it was the UGC cinema on Dublin Road in Belfast. It was a really nice site, just sadly closed recently, as you will probably be aware. And then I purchased the Jet Centre entertainment complex in Coleraine. Now, at that stage, Coleraine, there was nothing in it. I mean, it was completely wiped out. And we opened up with our cinema, 6 screens to begin with. It's now 8. And then we opened up our 10-pin bowling, children's adventure play. We've now got mini golf in addition to that, panning for gold and other activity for outside. And overall, it's a really great development, and has worked particularly well for us, particularly at the times that we're now in, because with COVID-19 hitting film distribution, where the large distributors are frightened to let their films go out because they're not sure that the audience is going to go into commercial cinemas to watch them. Having another string to our bow, with the Jet Centre, with the children's play and the amusement arcade and the 10-pin bowling, means that, all our eggs aren't on the one basket. And that's been one thing that I've been trying to do in Yorkgate for some time. In fact, we have a 10-pin bowling alley planned. I mean, I've had it draw. I mean, the money I've spent on architects' fees, on complete projects, we've got 2 full schemes ready to go once we get into better times. Mm-hmm. I just always felt that having my eggs in one basket, being cinema only, was always going to be potentially a problem. I didn't realize it was going to be the COVID-19 problem that we're seeing now. But the fact, I think in any business, if you're only concentrating on one marketplace, like for instance, if you're a manufacturer of yogurt and you're only making yogurt for Marks and Spencer's, and Marks and Spencer's decide they don't want your yogurt, yep, where do you go? Mm-hmm. All your eggs in one basket. So it's actually quite good, and it's something I've been working on for quite some time, is to look for interests outside of the main company, just so that, given the situation we find ourselves in now, that you have another means to make the wage packet up and to pay your bills off.
Yeah.
Michael, obviously, 30 years is a long time. We've been with Core Impact full time now for a year, and we know what the struggles and difficulties of that have been. So you doing 30 years is outstanding, and obviously we've been fortunate enough to be part of that journey for a big part of it. But one of the things I was going to say to you is what do you feel are the keys to success, and you've already sort of talked about a fair amount of that, how the company's diversified and stuff like that. But what else would you say have been key to getting 30 years so far?
Do you know what? I think you have to be a dreamer. I think that you have to be the person who stands out among the crowd and be ready to be laughed at. Um, and that's quite hard in the early days. If you think back to maybe even when you're at school, when bits and pieces would have happened. I mean, I worked in Ulster Television for 11 years. I worked in studios. I was probably the youngest. I think I was the youngest vision mixer in ITV at one stage, and I had to put up program ideas up the stairs, and quite a few of them were made. But you felt that people were laughing behind your back and poking fun at you, and that was an issue until I started Movie House, because even though people laughed, or I felt that people were laughing, I had the confidence to go ahead with it. I've always discovered, one of my great safety features in life is you see, if you laugh at yourself, it's not funny when somebody else does it. Yeah. They actually look stupid, in fact. So if you laugh at yourself, make fun of yourself, off your strengths, off your weaknesses, and you have to be a bit of a dreamer. You have to think out the other side of things and not be prepared to get it wrong. I mean, the number of times that we have got things wrong, but the important thing is the one thing we get right each time is the one thing that is incredibly powerful for us.
Yeah. That's very, very poignant. What I was going to, sorry, Sean, you want to add something? I was just going to say, just in terms of Movie House, because like you mentioned 30 years have just gone past, and for us, having been employees of yours for such a long period of time and only ever known it, like, I mean, I don't turn 30 until December. So I grew up.
That doesn't make me feel older than anything, like,
Sorry, we're meant to make it feel good here, but I suppose the thing I'm trying to say is I grew up with Movie House. It's a brand that I knew. I remember the adverts on TV every day, and I just remember only ever knowing it and going to it as a child. The first memory I have of cinema is Yorkgate, and we still call it Yorkgate, even though I think everyone struggles with Cityside and Yorkgate, by the way. But for the people who are in the organization, in my mind, very young, I always knew I wanted to work in cinema. I always knew I wanted to work for Movie House because it was my local cinema.
Yeah.
And then moving into the transition of actually working for you since I was 16, and then very early on realizing actually I want to grow up through this organization and learn about leadership and management. And for anyone who works in Movie House, it really is a family. It is very much a family-run organization.
Yeah.
More or less a powerhouse of Northern Ireland for as far as a brand goes, because everyone knows it, and there isn't anyone, even in the business that me and Sean are doing, that you haven't been able to provide an example to somebody of the experience you have based off that brand. But do you believe there's any one rule that you've had, or do you know what the reason is for people? Because when we were working for you, every other manager was there long term, at least 10, 15 years of service, 20 years of service in lots of cases.
Yeah. Well, I get, like, the one thing I will say is, like, I pay very smart people to look after me. Mm-hmm. And, I am not an accountant, but I pay a very good one. I'm not an architect. I pay a very good one as well. Yeah. And what you have is you bring together, I am incredibly loyal to all the teams of people who've been working with me, from our management team to all the contractors that I use. And I feel that, it's always part of the team, because I don't have those skills. And you don't have to have those skills. They're skills that you buy. And then you buy loyalty from people because you keep going back to them, understanding that people have bills to pay and they have to make money. Mm-hmm. But having the confidence that you can say, I want this done, knowing that they will take a fair profit, because when they've got the job they're doing now, they're looking for the next one as well. Mm-hmm. So building a team of people around you and being brave enough to let them bring decisions to the table. I mean, at the moment, our young team in Yorkgate have been feeling the frustration of limited customers coming in, and they've been coming up with a whole list of films that they think would take money. And we've been playing them. And it's been great for me from a film booking perspective, where I've got people coming from left field with things. Why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? Things I would never have played. And some do incredibly well. And some, like the regular films I book, don't do particularly well at all. Mm-hmm. So, and this is the problem that all small businesses have, is being brave enough to let other people within your organization take the lead, to let them to let them lead. In fact, to let them, be brave enough to make decisions. I don't have to be there making all the decisions. And when it goes great, isn't that wonderful? And when it goes wrong, well, that's what do we learn from that experience, and try and move on. I mean, there's no. I've just been very, very lucky the whole way along. But I have had a key lot of people. I mean, I would never go to the bank to negotiate a loan. Would never. I would never go on my own or think I was big enough to sit down and negotiate a new lease or a new contract or a new opportunity. I don't have those skills. All I am is the ideas guy. I get to have the best fun of everything. I get to dream about what is perhaps possible, about what I'd like to see done, to sit with the architect to come up with the design, to go to the trade shows to talk to the suppliers, to listen to other people about there. And trade shows are very important. I mean, I'll give you an example. We bought a 35 millimeter projector it was made by a company called Ernemann in Germany. Now, they would have been BMW, where Kineton would have been Mercedes. Both really, really good makes. And I remember I turned up at trade shows in Hong Kong and in Singapore, and then back again in Europe. And I remember the salesman, a lovely guy, Mr. Rasmus, saying to me, I think it was in Singapore, he says, look, you got to be for real. He says, you turn up at all of these things. And he says, look, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you a complete projector, a complete 35 mil projector, sale or return. Plug it in for 6 weeks. You don't want it, ship it back. I bought 34 units of them. 34 units. And it was only by going there, and I took the middleman out of everything. I went straight to the manufacturer and I did the deal. And it's the same with the people who do our shop units for us. It's a company called Martac. I'm personal friends with the guy who owns it. We meet up in all the trade shows. We have the best of fun when we're there. But business is business. He comes up with a superb product. I come up with the money to pay for that. But I have the skills that his company have gained from supplying concession units right across the world. So you see, it's not all about me and one individual. It's being big enough and brave enough to see all the other people, to use their skill and experience to nurture it and to take the best of it for me.
Love it.
Yeah, and obviously, Mike, we've seen that a lot of that at first hand, and the amount of trust that you do put in people, and even like suppliers and things like that. What I've seen, that the suppliers have been there forever. All the suppliers that you're using, and sometimes you're even paying them a bit more than you can get it elsewhere. But you're loyal to people.
Well, yes, I am loyal. I've had a gentleman in a company from Northern Ireland here trying to bulk sell us. And he's a lovely guy. I mean, he really is. He's incredibly successful, but I will not give him 1 inch because I have been dealing with Courtney Nelson here in Belfast, with Golden Popcorn in Northern Ireland, other people, whatever else. And I know he can undercut them. I know he can. But here's the thing. When it's a Thursday night and I've run out of popcorn or whatever, and it's probably Christmas Eve, because you only run out of things. Things only break at the weekends when you're busy and when you're about to go on holiday. I can make phone calls. I can make phone calls and people will pull me out of a hole. Sometimes you got to pay a wee bit extra. It's not always about getting it for as cheap as you can, because if you screw your supplier into the ground, he doesn't want your business anymore. Mm-hmm. Everybody has to make a bit of money. They have to make a bit of money. And while you don't want to feel you're getting ripped off, the fact is people have to have a fair profit. Gilbert Crawford, who was the owner of a big supermarket up in the town of Mahara, where we have a cinema, said to me one time, he says, always leave enough in the deal for the next man. Don't try to milk it into the ground. Don't try to take every penny out of it. Take a profit, take a fair profit, move it on. If that's what you want to do. If you're selling a product, once again, take a fair profit and then move it on. I mean, I have to laugh. I've always called myself the only Jewish Presbyterian here in Belfast. The Jewish philosophy's always been, it's a turnover that matters. And I've always went on that basis because, I would rather have 100 people at £5 admission than have 20 people at £10 admission.
Yeah.
It's people coming through the doors. It's the experience you're giving people. And you know what? The electricity is the same price. And the rent, electric, gas, all the staffing, they're all the same price. no matter how many people go in. So why not fill the place and make it a great experience, but make it at a price that people are happy to pay?
Yeah. I think like all this stuff that you're saying now, we've heard you saying, and I've taken a lot from a lot of different conversations that we've had with you in business and things like that, and we're learning from that. So everything you're saying, we can vouch for it. I just want to go back to one of the points JP was saying about the long-term team members basically in there. And of course, management team's been there for a long time, but obviously there's progress, and most of it comes internally as well, which is amazing. But one of the things I kind of wanted to point to is the empowerment side of things, because as part of Core Impact, what we focus on, our tagline is engage, enable, empower. And so that empowerment piece is kind of that final part. And I always remember when I worked in Yorkgate, one of the times I came to you with a complaint that had come through, and they were few and far between, but it was a guy that just wanted to push it further. So of course he wanted to speak to you. And at that point you had said, I'm not the manager. I don't do management. You do that kind of thing. And see them small conversations. They're what make people think they're valued in an organization. And when we went across the Odyssey Bowl, we tried new things. We took that from your philosophy of business. We tried new things. And I remember you saying at one point, and I wrote about this actually recently, I remember you saying at one point, ask for forgiveness instead of permission. And basically, if you feel I don't want to know, but let me know how it goes and it's successful kind of thing. And I think them things in an organization are really, really important.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's, and this is the difficulty the small businesses have, is simply not letting go. And the problem is, if you don't empower other people, then they're not always going to get it right. But I mean, that's part of the learning experience as well. So long as you're not going out to damage your company, if people get something wrong, guess what? They got it wrong. If an apology has to be made, then an apology is given. But you cannot build your business and have a team of people. I mean, with the 4 complexes that we have, I cannot run that. One person can't be there to answer every single query. Don't tell them, bring me the problem. Tell me about the problem. Tell me how you dealt with it. And I would say, like, honestly, I'm not trying to be smart about it. I don't think I'm particularly good at all these things either, but I trust people to get on with it and to do the very, very best. They're not going to damage the company because they want to. If an error's made, an error's made. My accountant once said to me, and I talk about my accountant quite often, a lovely man called Peter Griven, and Peter's advised me right back from day one. And I remember one day I was discussing something with him, and I says, yeah, that was a big mistake. He said, no, it wasn't. I says, it fucking was. It was a disaster. And he says, yeah, but the day you made the decision, based on the information you had, it was the correct decision. The fact that circumstances changed, that was the problem, but that wasn't within your control. I'm driving along here today, and actually it was yesterday, and I was recalling conversations I've been having with people. In fact, it was colleagues out of Ulster Television who have now retired, and I was talking, and they were saying to me, listen, when's the cinemas reopening? This is like 3 weeks ago. I says, we've been open from July. The numbers of people who don't know that we're open, and I went in to Terry Kelly, who does my PR for me, and I said, Terry, the number of people who don't honestly know we're open. She says, I know. I have so many people are saying to me, when you're reopening. And I says, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take out an advertising campaign on Cool FM, a 10-second ad with me saying, hello, Michael McAdam here, Managing Director of Movie House Cinemas. Guess what? We're open. And that's what I was... And that's the ad. That's the ad. I recorded it this morning, words to that effect. There's a few more words in it. Check out our website, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, simple things. That's what I get. I get to be able to make these decisions. And, we've had to face off. We had to face UGC when we were in Belfast. We had Warner Village who were incredibly aggressive against us, really doing underhanded things whenever the Odyssey first opened, coming into our foyer with a banner for Warner Village Cinemas, standing proudly outside our top shop, taking photographs of it and putting it in social media, trying to put us down. And I remember, getting those there, and I contacted the managing directors of all those companies, and those boys got a real hammering because nobody does that type of thing, thinking they're smart and thinking, you don't do that. and we're in times of need now at the moment, and I can tell you, Omniplex would be, they're very big in Northern, are big in Ireland and in total. We're in conversations each week. We know we're competitors,
Yep.
but we all know we're fighting the same battles, and so anything of underhandedness is out the window. We're all trying to survive here at the moment, and we're all trying to help, and we are helping each other with my ideas. I remember John Paul Anderson, the weekend we were opening, and he sent me his top 10 films and said, look, that's what's been taking money for us. That's what you get when you're a genuine person. It's not always about making as much money as you can in order to try and put the other man out of business. There's not business for everybody. You just have to think about where your location is. And I've always said, if I have to go put a man out of business in order to open up a location, I don't want to open that location.
Yeah.
There's plenty of locations where you don't have to destroy a man's business, particularly if business has been going for 20, 30, 40 years. Maybe they're finding it a bit tough or whatever, but they actually go out to destroy somebody's business. Why would you want to do that? We're only in this earth for a wee short time. What are we trying to do? We don't need to do that. You don't need to be that aggressive. Doesn't mean to say you should let people walk all over you. But on the other hand, you can be firm and you can be honest. And I think you get more respect for being firm, and for being honest. And I think when you get people's respect, then everything tends to work out for the best.
Yeah, I think it's probably where we live, Michael, as well. Having that kind of philosophy is a big deal because everybody knows everybody.
It's a small place.
They'll know all these the positive things that you do in the conversation. Each week conversation, I think, makes a massive difference. I think that's why Movie House is such a respected brand as well. One of the things that you were talking earlier coming in my head is like thinking over 30 years, like God knows how many people you've employed over that time that you provided employment for. Yeah. I'm sure they really appreciate it. How does that feel to know that you've given that?
It's really, it actually feels really, really good. I mean, I think one of the it's not the bad side of it, but given the fact we are 30 years, it's when you are now employing the children of the children you used to employ. And when I look around within Movie House, the number of romances, and the number of couples and marriages that have taken place with people who met behind the popcorn machine, I mean, that's a lovely. I mean, that is a pretty. I mean, that is a lovely feeling, to know that, I mean, it's great when we bring kids in from 16, 17, and they're on their journey for their A levels in the university, and they come out the far side. They've been with us for 5-6 years at that stage. I mean, it really is brilliant, But as I say, we are at the stage now where people who've employed their children are now working for us, and that feels a wee bit odd, But nonetheless, very nice.
I have an opportunity. I'm waiting an opportunity for my ones. They're 8, 6, and 4. So only wee while to go. I need you to keep up at least another 10 years.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, certainly, I tell you what, it is challenging times. It really is, and I mean, unfortunately, we're in a situation where we rely on a third party for our product. I mean, the way that I could describe to you what's happening to the cinema business at the moment. If you imagine your McDonald's or your Burger King and there's a problem with hamburgers, you can't sell them. Well, the lights will be on because you can still sell chicken nuggets, but you're not going to sell as many of them. Yeah. And that's the difficulty we have. We've been getting films recently, some very good films, but they're from they're small budget films. They've come in from the UK, from a small distributor without any marketing, without any backup. And the problem is cinema doesn't work that way. We need the 6 or 7 big titles in a year because that keeps us going. And the problem with James Bond film moving on us is the fact that would have kept us alive right through November and December, and come the Christmas week, first week in January, that would have taken off again. It would have given great strength, and it would have brought lots of people into our doors. The problem is that that's now gone. But having said that, there's always a flip side, because just yesterday, Sony Entertainment came out with 7 titles. They confirmed 7 titles, brand new films between now and Christmas. So, you know, people are trying to keep the industry going. But if that supply dries up, we would have to close, because if there's nothing to show, then we can't keep open. And I'm not in control of that. And that frightens me. And that's why I like the other aspect of any other developments that we will do will be that of a family entertainment center, so that we have other resources and other means and other ways in order to keep the lights on.
Yeah, and it's poignant to point out, you know, that you're in business over 30 years now with Movie House, and I know you're an entrepreneur. I know there was other things you've done before that, but as your main brand, as Movie House, you've been there for 30 years, and for you to say that, obviously, it's worrying if you're dependent on third parties. And let's face it, most organizations, especially SMEs, are dependent on third parties for what they're doing. But I suppose if there's anyone watching, because I appreciate that you're a busy guy, and I know we can't have you all day long here, because I could listen to you speaking all day, and I always have felt that way. But, you know, is there any advice that you would give the SMEs now? And obviously you've got a philosophy. Integrity plays a massive part in that, and understanding to be a good neighbor, as you say, with the fact that you openly have those conversations with Omniplex and many other businesses who are cinema chains who are in the industry. You know, for any SMEs right now in these difficult times, is there any piece of advice you would give them? And I think you've highlighted quite a few of them already, that to get through this time and sort of think forward.
Well, I think be honest with people as much as you can. If you can't pay your bills, lift the phone. Tell the man where you are. Don't be hiding from people. I think that it isn't very often I've ever had to do that, but a few years ago we did have a very dry spell. I knew we were absolutely fine, but I phoned my suppliers and said, listen, just stay with us. And the reassurance that you give to your suppliers is really, really good, because you say, right, you'll have a check for 25 grand tomorrow morning, but I need another 2 or 3 months and the rest of it. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's the plan. And people took that and were just delighted to be told the truth, rather than you being chased. And if you can't pay people, God forbid, tell them, look, I can't do this, you know, because you don't need people chasing you. You know, the pressure that puts under, whether it's in your business, whether it's in your personal life, monetary problems are something you go to bed with and wake up with. They're horrible situations to have. So always be honest with people as much as you can, and particularly with your employees. You know, people can accept the truth. They can accept the facts. Explain to people where you are, what's happening, because, you know, I've often felt in Movie House that people sometimes kind of thought there was some type of, you know, conglomerate control from California, and not realizing that it's me from the Shore Road, you know, who has to make the decisions. And the decisions that I am making, you know, I mean, I'll tell you a story quickly. Whenever I first opened Glengormley, I was still working in UTV, and it was newly fangled. We had this lovely cinema, and I'm a full-time job, and we're playing at cinemas here, and isn't it great fun? I mean, it's everybody's dream to have their own cinema. I had a 5-screen multiplex, and it was great fun until my first ever full-time employee knocked the office door one night, and he says, Michael, I wonder, would you mind filling this form in for me? Lovely man called John Murphy, and John handed me his mortgage application. Then I realized we weren't playing games. We're playing with people's lives. The decisions that I make and the outcome of those decisions affect how people pay their rent, how they pay their mortgage, and how they keep a home over their kids' heads. That's a lot of pressure to be on. Lots of employees don't get this. I mean, I've been walking around in the trance the past while back, just thinking, where on earth are we? You know, now I know where we are, and I know we're okay. But it's tight and it's tough. And that's why when it gets tight and it gets tough, that you look for alternative ways to run your business. You look at every aspect of it. And even if we have to bring it back down to basics, God willing, weather permitting, we'll still be here when we get to the far side of this, because what's happening to us now will end. But I don't think it's going to end in 3 months. I don't think it's going to end in 6 months. And I think in 2 or 3 years' time, we're still going to be suffering the consequences of COVID-19. But what we have to do is we have to acknowledge where we are. We have to wake up to the fact that the world is not going back to normal. Remember in the World War I, not that I was alive then, even though I am 60 years old, but the saying was the war will be over by Christmas, and it wasn't. And the war with COVID isn't going to end either. and the number of people who are going to lose their jobs, and the amount of time it's going to take for the economy to get going again, it will get going. It will get going. But if you're in business on your own or thinking of setting up, my only rules and advice is be open, be honest, and then that way you can't trip yourself up.
Yeah, totally agree.
Brilliant. Thank you, Michael. What do you see the future as? Obviously, not just the immediate future. What do you see the long-term future for Movie House?
In regards to, well, I mean, I made a decision. Once again, because I go to all these trade shows, I have people, my personal friends who work in the cinema seating business. And about 5 years ago, one of them, John Fennell, left Seating Concepts. They were in San Diego and moved to a company called VIP Cinema Services in Mississippi. And he phoned me and says, like, Michael, I'm just telling you what's happening here in the States. You know, we're going in with these reclining seats. He says, now you end up with half the number of seats, sometimes less in the theater. He says, but what we're doing is we're fitting them into first generation multiplexes that are now doing $3 seats. And he said, they're packing the place out. And I thought, yeah, how could that be? But he was absolutely right. And I took a chance on that in the little Maharaj cinema. And we did a complete refit on it. It was about 110,000 admissions when it first opened before the Jet Center had opened. And it was right down to about 47,000 admissions whenever we reinvested with this experiment with reclining seats. Mm-hmm. And, you know, within a year, with half the number of seats, we doubled the admissions.
Unbelievable.
Doubled the admissions. So what we've been doing recently is reinvesting in seats. In fact, anybody who goes on the Glengormley will know that all 6 screens are now the VIP experience. Yeah. We've got 9 of the larger screens done in Yorkgate. I fitted out 2 screens in Coleraine just about 3 weeks ago, and people love them. And because of COVID, it's actually worked our advantage because the spacing between seats is so big. There's 5 feet between you and the guy in front and the guy behind, and you've got a meter beside you, and you walk in and you cannot help but feel safe. There's so much room. In traditional cinema, not so much, and they're having to lose so many seats. So, you know, reinvestment is the way forward, not being frightened to reinvest. I mean, I every time I get my bank loans down to a half decent level, I decide to do something different. It used to be seating, and then I went on to sound, and then I went back to seating again. And here we are. You know, we're back. We're still at seating again, and you know, the experience that people want, recognizing what our customers need, and that's very important because you have to think of yourself as a customer. And we've got streaming services now galore. And we have to decide, well, how am I going to get my customer out of their armchair? I've got to give them something they don't get in the house. And, you know, the VIP experience is exactly what you're getting. It's a lovely way to watch a movie. And believe me, once you've sat on the leatherette seats and you've stretched your feet out and you've enjoyed a really good movie, you're not going to go back to traditional cinema. You're going to be spoiled. I've invested heavily, but we didn't put our prices up. It's all about the turnover. Remember the Jewish Presbyterian? It's all about turnover. Turn the people over.
Play the long
Turn
game.
the people over. If people enjoy spending their money and they've had a great experience and they feel they get value for their money, they're going to come back and spend it again. I don't want a one-off customer. One-off customers no use to me.
Yeah. No. Well, look. At the end of the day, we appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time to come on here, and I know you're quite busy, so I really do appreciate that. And again, for anyone who's watching, Movie House Cinemas is open. They have been open since July. I'll put some details and put the link on here, and everyone can jump through. And it's such an easy system. I actually was at the cinema since lockdown a number of weeks ago to see Tenet, and I would, Sean will tell you, I'll be one of the ones who would be quite anxious about everything going on, and went from a few friends who work in the cinema, and, you know, from an experience perspective, VIP is unlike anything that you're going to get, even across the water. And I felt very secure in the fact that the seats beside you are booked out automatically, and that's all nice and flush. And if you have a cinema choice, Movie House Cinemas, you're going to know what you get. And as Michael says, the prices haven't went up. It's cheaper than everywhere, and it's a better experience. But Michael, look, on a personal level, we've said this a few times to you, and the support you give us, even having been employees and now working alongside in sense of a management company of Odyssey and overseeing that operation, we appreciate it. We really do appreciate it. And some of the points you made there, we're going into the organizations and we're trying to teach the fundamentals that we learned while we were working for you, as well as some things we learned along the way as well. And that leadership is so important, especially these days.
I'll tell you, I'll finish with this. And this is not me being humble, this is me being truthful. If you had to be smart to be in business, I wouldn't be in business. Business is common sense. It's common sense. What do you like? If you enjoy it, will your customers enjoy it? Find what the customer wants, try and provide that service for them, try and do it at a price that they can afford to pay and that they're happy to pay. And most of all, enjoy what you're doing, because if you don't enjoy the business you're in, get out and get into something you do enjoy. Because to spend your life in a job that you would hate or run the business that you've no interest in, it'll go nowhere. It might survive, it might pay the bills, but that'll be a horrible way to live. I get up every single day looking forward to the new challenge. And believe me, recently there's been plenty of challenges. And sometimes I hide under the hedges, thinking in the name of good patience, and feel the pressure and everything else, And sometimes you got to walk away from your business. Sometimes you got to give yourself a bit of time. Bit of time to think, take advice for what you need, but always remember, if you're running a business, the decision you make will be either make the business or break the business. So take your time and don't be pressurized by anybody. And remember that the decision you make on that particular day, no matter what the consequences turn out to be, was the right decision at that particular time.
Yeah, that's amazing, Michael. Thank you so much.
I want to say thank you as well. Thank you for the amount of, I think it was 18 years, 2002. I think I joined Movie House Cinemas, and it's been an absolute privilege and a pleasure to be in the company for that long. And I feel I've learned so much and grown so much within the organisation. So thank you for that, and thank you for coming on today. It's a pleasure to get chatting to you.
An absolute pleasure, anytime at all.
Thanks very much. So on finishing, remember, engage, enable, and empower.